Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to make something I've not tried before, and it's a vanilla baked cheesecake. I've made cheesecakes before where you make them in the fridge and you let them chill that way, but cheesecake is one of my absolute favourites, so it's about time I tried to make one. And I've watched them being made for years on television, all the chefs make them, so I really would like to try it myself. I've got a recipe that I'm using that I'll link you in the description. I'm slightly adapting it. I'm not using the fruit or the sour cream on the top. But what you need to do is preheat your oven to 180 degrees C. Then you have to grease your chosen tin. So I've got the spring tin. It's quite a wide one again, so I'm hoping that it won't be too wide. I think it should be okay. You need a wooden spoon for the mix. You need 115 grams of digestives or your chosen biscuits and 50 grams of butter. Now you can either blitz the biscuits first and then add the melted butter, but I'm actually just going to melt them together. 900 grams of cream cheese that you allow to be room temperature. Then we need 25 grams of plain flour, 4 eggs that we're going to add in beaten. We need 200 grams of caster sugar, which I've said in quite a few videos is hard to get at the moment. So this is granular sugar that I've actually blitzed in the Vitamix to make it caster sugar. And then vanilla bean paste, vanilla extract or vanilla pods. For the vanilla bean paste it will be about 2 teaspoons. Pods, it would be about 2 pods. And what we're going to do first of all is bash up these biscuits, but we're going to pop it in the microwave for about 10 seconds to melt the butter. It is a cheat way, it is a bit lazy, but who cares? So that's what we're going to do first. That's us bashed up the digestives with the butter, and we just used the rolling pin. I've got another video which is the lemon meringue pie where you actually watch me do it stage by stage, so I won't bore you, and if you want to actually see how it's done then you can look on the lemon meringue pie video. Or again, the easiest way if you've got the food processor or the blender is just to do it that way. So this is now going to go into here, so I'll move this out the way. So we just put this into our container and we press it down but not too firmly, because if it's extremely firm, when you chill it or when you bake it, it's going to be a very hard base to work through. Have you ever had a cheesecake and it's so hard to break the base that you actually feel as if it's going to snap and just fly away? That's because they've pressed it down too firmly. So make it firm but don't compact it so that it's impossible to cut. And it's okay to have little chunky bits in it too. So you're just working your way to the edges. And then what we'll do is put this in the fridge just to help it chill and firm whilst we make the topping, which looks very simple, but because I've never done it before, I hope it is simple. So this goes into the fridge, and now let's do the main part of the cheesecake. So this is our 900 grams of the cream cheese, and it's at room temperature. And this very attractive dollop here, that is the vanilla paste, so you can see all the little specks in it. But again, you can use vanilla essence, you can use vanilla pods, but you would scrape it out, obviously, if it's the pods. Don't waste your pods though when you scrape them out. If you have sugar in the house, you can actually put the used pod into the sugar, and in about a week's time you'll actually have vanilla sugar, so don't waste that. And then what we're going to do is put in the plain flour and the sugar, but according to the recipe you mix this through first and then you mix the eggs in a bit at a time last. So that's what we'll do. So we'll start mixing this in. Because the cream cheese is room temperature, it will be easier to work with, because you'll know yourself if it's straight out of the fridge it can be quite hard to work with. So I'm just very gently working this in first so that it doesn't go everywhere. But we'll try this vanilla one first, and then if anyone loves cheesecake then you'll know that the combinations are limitless, and I've yet to meet a cheesecake that I didn't like. I also love vegan cheesecake. I've not tried to make it, but there was a company that's no longer in existence here, and I can't even remember their name, but you used to be able to get them in several local cafes, and they would call it like a Snickers cheesecake or a Bounty one. They did all sorts of flavours, but they were completely vegan and they were lovely. But they just disappeared. And I tried to contact them. They had a Facebook page, but they didn't pick up the messages. So for whatever reason, they're gone. So it's a real shame. Right, so next, it's a little bit of the beaten egg at a time, so not too much. So there's a bit, make sure we don't drip it everywhere. I'm just going to put it in there. And just incorporate it gently. So I'm fully expecting this to loosen up quite a bit now. Again, if you just do like your folding motion, but because there's 4 eggs, I'm expecting that this will noticeably loosen. And then I have a feeling that it'll pour quite freely into the tin. Again, considering how many cheesecakes I've eaten over the years, never actually made a baked one. Do that. And you can see all the little flecks when you're up close now of the vanilla. Oh, I'm looking forward to this. So it's going to go into the oven for about 45 to 50 minutes according to the recipe. But the one thing about the recipe that I am going to adapt timing wise is it says cook it until it looks completely set. But I've watched enough programs over the years. They say that the base, or rather the top, will crack completely if you allow it to cook all the way through in the oven. So what they suggest is you wait until the middle still looks a bit wobbly and you take it out, or you turn the oven off when the middle's wobbly, because it will continue to cook with the residual heat, and that way it shouldn't crack. So I'm going to try that, but if it does crack, I don't care as long as it tastes good. Right, so this is the last part of the eggs being incorporated, but you saw how easily the rest of it blended in. It's just that initial mix. And I can guess this is going to be a big cheesecake, so make sure you can share it with people, or portion control. Don't do a Joey from Friends and just walk about with a fork in your pocket. That was one of my favourite episodes, where the cheesecake fell on the floor in between the apartments and they were just all going out eating the cheesecake. I think a lot of us can relate to that. Right, that looks well mixed. So we can get this in. So I've got the chilled base, and we'll just pour this over the base and then get it into the oven. So just smooth that down. And then we'll come back to this and see how it's looking in about 45 minutes time. But as I always say, that is an estimate. Everyone's oven's different. Cake mixes can behave differently every time you work with them. So it's an approximation, and we'll see how that looks when it's ready. So here it is, it's out the oven. It had about 50 minutes, and as you can see, it's not wobbling, but after 50 minutes, just this little bit in the middle was still quite wet. So what I did was I turned off the oven so that the residual heat could just cook that bit through. Now I've got a little bit of cracking here, but for a first attempt, I'm quite happy with that. And I also don't know if that cracking is because I actually pushed it. I don't know. But what I have done is had a look at some of the websites that give you advice, because it can be quite technical. So what I'm going to do now is run a knife around the outside and then leave it to cool. So I will do that, just very loosely run that knife around it so that it doesn't stick. And then what I believe happens is, basically what happens when it cools is that if you ran the knife around, then as it cools, it will pull away ever so slightly from the edges, and that will make it easier to release from the tin. So I will next see you when we can actually view if that worked. Right, apologies if you can hear boiling, that's my dinner. I'm doing some potatoes with it, so apologies for that. But as you can see, that's it cooled down, and it came out of the tin quite easily. The crack's a little bit more noticeable, but considering this is a first attempt, I don't care. So what I'll do now is I'll cut it and then I'll let you see how it looks cut. And I need both hands for that, so I will see you in a sec. Wow, look at that. I'm laughing because the potatoes are boiling and it sounds like I'm some sort of witch with a cauldron, but it's just dinner. Look at that, I am really impressed with that. So ignore the crack, I will be ignoring it, but that is my first attempt at a baked cheesecake and I'm really impressed. So I've linked the recipe, I did adapt it a tiny bit. Apart from that though, it was really easy to follow. Let me know what you think. And if you have a favourite cheesecake that you make, I'd love to know. Have a lovely day. I am away to eat some cheesecake. I'll see you again soon.